This is the formula sheet that's going to be given to you on the day of your SOL. Notice that you have a formula for a square. You also have formulas for the rectangle. To find the perimeter, or the distance around the square, it's 4 S's. An S, an S, an S, and an S. Each S representing a side. So if you take all 4 sides and add them together, you get the perimeter of the square. To find the area of a square, you would do the length of the square times the width of the square. For the rectangle, you have 2 lengths. So whatever your length is, you would add this length plus this length, as well as adding 2 widths. So 2 lengths plus 2 widths will give you the perimeter, or the distance around the shape. The area is made up of the length times the width. Before we can get into more challenging problems with area and perimeter, we have to know the difference between area and perimeter. Area is the space taken up on the inside. Okay. If you were going to cover something, like covering a carpet, covering a floor with a carpet, okay, covering a wall with paint, these would be examples of area. Okay, so area is to cover. For example, to tile a floor. Okay. To put down carpet. Carpet. Probably need a smaller pen. Okay. To cover something with saran wrap, like leftovers. Okay. The idea is that you are covering something. You're covering the floor with tiles. You're covering the floor with carpet. You're covering a wall with paint. Okay. If it sounds like you're going to cover something, that is area. Perimeter is the distance around something. So perimeter. And I'm making these visuals. Perimeter. It's hard to write upside down. I'm making these visuals to help you remember that perimeter means the distance around, whereas area is the space on the inside. Okay. Perimeter would be things like putting up a fence. Okay. If you were going to put a fence around your garden or your yard or your pool, you would need to find the perimeter. Okay. If you were going to put a border up, okay, maybe make a border for a picture that you want, like a picture frame. Okay. Putting border up around a classroom or one of our bulletin boards, that would be considered perimeter. If I was going to walk around the lake, okay, that would be perimeter. Okay. Perimeter has to do with distance. It's the distance around something. Okay. So big ideas that you need to take from here. Area has to do with covering. Perimeter has to do with the distance around items. Unlike elementary school, all of the problems you're going to find for area and perimeter are word problems. So if you need something read aloud to you, just let me know. While I read problems aloud, I'm going to put boxes around key pieces of information and underline keywords. So for the problem on the left, it says, Suli wants to place a protective covering, I'm going to underline that word covering, over a rectangular flower bed that measures 3 2/10 meters by 4 3/10 meters. How many square meters will cover, or of covering, will she need? I know that this is an area problem. This is an area problem because I'm covering something. And in this case, I'm covering a rectangle that is 3 2/10 meters by 4 3/10 meters. If I go back to my formula sheet, I could see that area is equal to length times width. So area is going to equal 4 3/10 times, 4 3/10 times 3 2/10. When I actually pull out my calculator, because you can use a calculator for this section, okay, I'm going to type in 4 3/10 and then multiply it by 3 2/10. I get an answer of 13 76/100 meters squared. Okay. It's the meters that are squared, not the number. So don't think to do 13.76 squared meters. That's not correct. Okay. What it's talking about is those are the squares that I'm using to cover my surface. That's why the answer is in meters squared, or square meters. The problem to the right, Amanda's building a fence. We talked about things that use fences. Notice that it's going around her rectangular garden. The garden has a width of 4 feet and a length of 7 feet. How many feet of fencing will be necessary to enclose the garden? This is a perimeter question. I'm talking about the distance around something, and in this case it happens to be a rectangle that's 4 feet by 7 feet. If I go back and look at the formula for perimeter of a rectangle, it says 2 lengths plus 2 widths. Another way to do this is 7, so 2 groups of 7 is 14. Okay. This is 4, which is our width. 2 widths would be 8. My perimeter is equal to 14 plus 8. So I've got 22 feet. It's not squared because it's just the number of linear units around my figure. And if going around the figure is easier for you, 7 plus 4 is 11. This is also 7 and this is also 4. So this 7 and 4 makes 11. This 7 and 4 makes 11 for a total of 22.